Hey, I want to talk about something stupid, simple, and honestly something that I find very useful for someone like me who keeps changing optics, especially when I'm changing red dots, because I have to zero them every time I swap them out. Now, this is obviously something that makes common sense. It is something that not everyone's going to do. It's something that's a bit niche to me because I keep changing optics, and I change optics because I like to tinker. And I like to experience different tech. I like LED emitters and I like holographic. I love holographic because I've got an astigmatism and I love the lack of parallax. There is parallax in everything that we use, but holographics at a certain distance kind of reduces it so much as almost negligent. It's just using backup sights to help you zero when you change optics. Basically what I do is whatever optic I've already zeroed, the backup sights on the rifle, I zero the backup sights to what the optic is zeroed at, then I swap the optic and I zero the new optic to those sights. It's as simple as that. And to be honest, it's got to a point where I've decided I'm going to keep backup sights on my rifles. So when I went to the range and decided to use this method to double check my optic, I actually swapped from my Holosign AMS to the XPS 2-1. So I actually had a Holosign on here. In fact, it was a different height. So having the backup sights on there when I swapped them over to the EOTech XPS 2, well, the results were surprising because I was expecting to have to change my zero, especially at 25 yards, but I didn't. It was amazing. I didn't have to touch anything. Because I zeroed to my backup sights and I did it somewhat with luck, precisely, I didn't have to zero my optic. I can put this magnifier to its side and still use the backup sights if I wanted to. But if you have an LPVO and you are trying to do it with one of those, unfortunately, footprint is a problem. You could potentially do it, but it's not worth your time. You won't be able to get a good eye relief, and I've not seen anyone with an LPVO use backup sights. If you do, please let me know. But yeah, red dots, this is a great way of doing it, especially if you keep changing and hot swapping red dots and you don't have time to go to the range to zero. But it's also very good of confirming zero if you're not really trusting your red dot and you want to make sure that it maintains zero, because if your backup sights and your red dot are zeroed at the same time, at the same place, and you go traveling and they are still the same, it's very improbable that they both lost zero and still maintained some form of zero between each other. There would be some deviation. When I'm going to the wild shoot, I'm probably going to use that as a method of zeroing. I'll still go to the zero range if I can, but that's really depending on circumstance. So one thing I'm using to help myself make sure that my zero is in place whilst traveling with my firearms is to have those backup sights in place, zeroed, and have my optics zeroed as well before I leave. Then when I get there, I can just check without going to the range, hey, are my backup sights and my red dot zeroed at the same place? And if they're not, I go to the range because I can't guarantee which one's gone off deviation, but if they're the same, there's a very good chance that nothing's shifted during transport. But yeah, that's my tidbit. It's very common sense. It's obvious, but it's taken me a while to think about doing it. And because of my circumstance, because I'm using red dots that have a good co-witness, even at different heights, I think actually, funny enough, I think the Trigicon doesn't have a good witness. Double check. Can just about get it because that's a raised height of about 2 inches. So even with a raised optic, as long as you can see the back and front back up, you should be able to zero and check your optic zero using backup sights as well. So just a little tidbit, and I'll see you guys in the next one.